Hi, and welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So it's just a quick one to do with Elon Musk's neurolink that they were talking about on Sky News today, which is, if you haven't seen it, I'll try and put the link in this video's description so you can see it. But it was basically a man who was disabled from the shoulders down, so unable to use his hands or use a computer or anything like that, who's had this chip implanted in his brain. I don't really know the process of it. I did do a quick search, and there are videos on YouTube. I'll put that in the description as well. I suppose I should have watched it really before I started talking about it. But what interested me was twofold things. Is one, I know, I don't know if I've ever put it on YouTube or not, but I know I did. I think I have mentioned it before on YouTube. And I know I did do a story. I used to do these radio plays. Oh God, when was this? This is in the 90s. Because I always had this idea of that. Wouldn't it be great? Learning is so difficult when you have to learn everything, and it takes so long to learn everything, and it all depends on your capacity to pick up things. And myself, I've never been I didn't do very well in my GCSEs. I wasn't very good at taking tests, retaining that information and then regurgitating. I'm very good at, like, if someone shows me how to do something, then I can do something. I'm very good practically. That's why I did very well. Is like with my GCSEs, I got E's and then I had to redo them to get C's. And then when I did my BTEC, was at OND then, I got distinctions on every single thing. I remember that day going to the board and seeing all those distinctions, how different it was, because it was all practical. I mean, there was some I think there was some exam part of it, but most of it was practical. So that just goes to show you that, you have to unlock the key to the person to get the best out of them, which should be the achievement of all learning. So obviously, because of that, I had this idea of like, well, if you put a chip in your brain to learn these things rather than have to take the years of doing it, you could just, okay, I want to learn this, I put it in, and this, that, and the other. And then I think eventually I sort of had this, because the problem is, I was thinking about that, is that it'd be a bit impractical to put, like, obviously when you think of chips, you're thinking of like the microchips, with the little prongs stuck in your head. Maybe it's not so practical to put it inside your jelly-like brain. So then I was thinking about like waves, because obviously the brain works, the way it works isn't it waves or something? And I was thinking maybe you could teach it by sending that signal in, so that it could, rather, just send that signal in, and it the brain picks it up and then it learns the information. So I had these two sort of ideas, never thinking that these would ever happen in my lifetime. And I think I believe I did hear about it once, that Arthur C. Clarke actually had a similar idea. I don't know if it was in 3001, but I remember hearing that he had an idea about the same kind of thing, brain and the chips. Maybe loads of people have probably thought about this before, because it's quite an obvious thing, because we all have computers, and that's how computers, ROMs and things, RAM, and how they learn things. So now Elon Musk has done this. Now, what I'd like to know is how obviously he's very good at, I assume, picking people. Maybe he's good at the ideas. I assume he didn't get involved in the practicality of it. I guess he picks his team and they go away and do this. What I was interested in is how do they test this? How many people die doing this? Because, when you do any kind of experiments, I assume they start on animals first, and then they would progress to humans. But the idea of opening someone's head up and sticking a chip, I assume it's not quite like that. I don't know. But the idea of tampering with the brain, or somehow you have to connect to the brain, even if it's a chip on the outside and it's somehow connected inside, there has to be some kind of, unless it's like the brainwave thing, like I mentioned before. I don't know how that was done and how many people died, and I'll be surprised. Do America allow people, like Elon Musk, who isn't, like a medically trained person, to employ people to then okay, I'm Elon Musk. I've got nothing to do with medicine. I'm going to employ these doctors. It seems like, some kind of wacky thing, doesn't it, really? I'm going to employ these doctors to go and do this. It reminds me a bit of that. Oh, what was that thing I saw on Netflix to do with that guy? He's like a spiritual guy. What was the name of that thing? I'll have to see if I put that in the description if I remember afterwards. It was this documentary about this guy who claimed he'd been in touch with aliens, and then he set up this whole organization, and then they claimed to do the first, was it a clone of a baby for the coming back of these aliens, and he had worked with this geneticist lady who was at the top of her field, and she claimed they'd done it, and there was this baby somewhere in Israel, and so it reminded me a bit of that as I'm talking to you about this. But how did he get, like, is it okay for some entrepreneur, like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or whoever it would be, I know he's passed away, to say, okay, I want to get these scientists and I want, put a chip in the brain, so you can learn things, and then you go away and do that. Okay, it's done. Is that, legal in the United States, or did he do it somewhere where it is legal? I don't know. Apart about that, they didn't mention that. But yes, it has great. Those are the two things that interest me. This great application that, this could be used further in learning things. At the moment, this person who was disabled from the shoulders down was able to learn. It took a bit of time, apparently, to move a mouse on the computer, on a laptop screen, to play a game of chess, it looked like, and change music and things. So he was using his brain. I assume it's got like a Bluetooth type thing. Is that really what it is? Maybe it's not quite the thing I've been talking about, or R.C. Clarke's been talking about, but it's like a Bluetooth connection, so that he can wirelessly connect with, because at the moment he can't use his hands. So physically, the problem is the issue. So by putting this chip in, it means he can use things that are, I assume, only technology based. But it's a step. I mean, this is like an amazing, like, science fiction type aspect, especially because we're getting the AI bits as well now coming in, with AI, replacing jobs and being able to do things. And the future of that may be that, hopefully, and I know I've talked about this a few pursuits of truth, that we won't have to work, because all these AIs will be doing all these things much more efficiently than us, freeing us up. But we will be allowed to free ourselves up. The problem is those people in the transition, like the coal miners who won't have a job, and will they be, what will they do with their lives? Because they won't be able to live off benefit because everything's so expensive. You don't. So the government will have to. Well, will they though start paying people to stay at home? But there's going to be these people in the transition that can lose their jobs. They're probably already losing their jobs to technology. If it hasn't, I know it's previously happened for different fields, like manufacturing and things, but that's the problem for those people in the transition, until we get to a stage where, these things are like acknowledged, and now we have to have a different structure. Maybe this will be why we get rid of money, because we won't need it, because these AIs will be doing all the work. And then we can do more of the creative things and more of the beautiful things of living in our existence, and not just these mundane things that have become the meaning of our existence wrongly. So yeah, he was able to do that. So that's great. So maybe in the future they'll be able to correct those brain issues where the body is perfectly fine. The connection between, like, because he can't move, if his faculties, as it were, are okay, but his brain somewhere, like in the neck, has been damaged, the spine. Maybe he'll be able to fix those types of things to send new signals, from the brain to those parts, so that those parts are reactivated again. There's a lot of potential for this. It's amazing to think that this has already happened in our lifetime. And also the application of being able to learn things quickly, if, once we can speak the language of the brain, as it were. I mean, that's making me think of Dennis Potter's, was it karaoke, or was it the other one, where they had that brain, or the head of that person, and that would that be the future, that we'll be able to transport ourselves out of our human bodies into AI, into robot bodies, and exist forever in a. Because once you understand how our brains work and communicate, depending on this aspect of the soul, we could live forever. The only reason why we die currently is because of our faculties, usually our hearts, and the damage that we do to our bodies and accidents. Whereas I don't know about the brain. Can it last forever? Or can you replicate those? If once you learn the code, can you copy, like you copy a hard drive, you copy the brain into an organic, into an electronic and AI type brain, and then we live forever and we never die? And would we ever replicate again? Our existence could be completely different. We might set off on another planet and just have these, vampire like people that don't die forever, AI humans. Someone's probably going to do that in another 20 years. Obviously, the danger with this, of course, is the idea that now, what if you could manipulate people's brains? Once you learn that code, once you're able to put a chip, you can the chip to the computer. What about the other way around? The computer to the chip to the brain. In the future, as this progresses, there'll be benefits. People obviously will poo-poo at the beginning, like they did microwaves, like they did computers, like they've done everything. The dangers of everything, like cars, until there'll be a point where everyone will have them, and then we'll all forgotten about that, and generations past. There will be a time where we'll all have these chips, we'll all have these implants, because there'll be a benefit to it, i.e. the benefit of not having to go to school, not having to waste 16 years at school learning things, when you can have a chip. This is what I was thinking of when I was young, obviously for obvious reasons, a chip that has English, maths, geography, history, everything that possible, just plugged in, and you have access to finite, proper information, not any misremembering, all that kind of stuff, easily to obtain. I mean, maybe it'll do your brain in having that kind of information, but it'll just be like an augmented, isn't it? You're like extra RAM, extra things put in, like a block of all this stuff. And of course, but that's the benefit. And of course, as that progresses, people want that. But then, of course, there'd be the application where agencies outside, whoever they might be, governments or whomever, would be able to infiltrate those. And once you know the code, you could take this person over, much like people did in the 50s when they did those trials of drugs, how drugs can make you affect you and then make you go and do things. There's a lot of science beyond on that, how it can manipulate you. This will be the same kind of thing where once there's ways that code or whatever, you can then hack into someone's brain, as it were, and tell them, I want you to go and do this. Of course, maybe by that time we'll be so clever that we won't want to do things like that. That's the hope, and there won't be this negative impact. But of course, there will be that danger of you losing your autonomy because you've got this extra external thing that is not part of your natural autonomy, and therefore you could end up doing things that weren't really of you. Maybe it could even, it's working now. It's making me say other things that I didn't actually want to say, like something like that, where it suddenly switches you off, and then you're in control of someone else, and they can make you say whatever, make you think whatever, and you plead guilty for something you didn't actually do, and all this kind of stuff. That's obviously the negative aspect of this, which is the danger of it. Whether that will happen, I mean, it's possible, but I guess it's possible now anyway, because you can manipulate people with cults, you can manipulate people with words, with ideas, with peer pressure. Psychologically, we know all that already. You can manipulate people with drugs. If you give them the right drugs and get them hooked on these things, you can get them to do things and be angry and all that kind of stuff. So there is that aspect already in our lives. And the whole system that we live within creates all of us anyway. And all of the murderers and all the bad things about us are already part of our system that it's a man-made system we've created. It's not a natural system, is it? It's not. It's come about over our years that we've manufactured it. So we've done that anyway. So that is already in place. The only thing that the benefit could be that we will be so intelligent because we'll have all this information, we'll have all this capacity, and we'll have all this free time because of AI and because of different ways of working and hopefully no money and all this kind of thing, that maybe we will endeavor to be beneficial for the whole of humanity by being, not needing all these negative things, not needing to steal, not needing to murder, because we have the capacity to do what we want, to go wherever we want, to live a perfect existence. Oh, that sounds so beautiful when I say it. If only these AI and these chips and all these kind of stuff and are awakening to these types of things and to finding truths and holding on to the intrinsic truths that we're all one, we're all here once, well, at the moment, and this is such a beautiful place and a beautiful existence. We should be tasting of that beauty that God or whomever has given us, this whole place with all this energy, all this, apparatus, everything that's around us for us to be able to use and benefit from in a positive way for the entire humankind. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.